to our next episode of Financial Minds Meet the Experts. I'm Jaime Agostino, your host. On this show, we're joined by financial industry experts to talk about topics, trends, and themes that credit union professionals need to know about. Today on Financial Minds Meet the Experts, I'm joined by Chad Helminak, the Director of Programs and Impact for the National Credit Union Foundation. Chad, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm excited to discuss Credit Union Development Educator designation. But before we get started, could you share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Yeah. And thanks for having me, Jamie. I'm excited to be here. Um, well, a little bit about myself. I have been in credit unions for 16 years and I've worked in some different parts of the system and just feel really blessed to be working for credit unions in my current capacity. I love my job. I love meeting the people I get to meet, which we'll talk about through the DE program. And I'm also a father of a 3.5-year-old who you may or may not hear screaming at some point in the background. So I apologize in advance.
We've all been there, so we completely understand. And thank you. Really appreciate you being here. So let's get into it. So, what is the Development Education or DE program?
Sure. The Foundation's Credit Union Development Educator program is a program that has been around for 40 years. We're celebrating our 40th anniversary this year. It's around this idea that there are fundamental barriers in the lives of that impact the lives of those we serve. And through a credit union lens, we have to pay attention to those things. And we actually have a superpower as credit unions, our unique purpose. And so it's putting this puzzle together of how do we look at the world in different ways to understand these problems, these barriers, and solve them uniquely as only credit unions might be able to. So, as program director, I'm standing on the shoulders of the giants. We've got a really awesome past of the program. More than 2,300 people have been through the program over the years in the US here. It's spawned programs internationally. So there's a network of other programs out there, and it's high demand. So we're lucky to have a lot of great credit union people waiting to get into the next class and the next class.
Wonderful. Who should attend the DE program and why?
So it's a limited group in that we only allow 48 people per class, and we hold it a few times a year. Having said that, everyone should. One of the cool things about the DE program is we leave titles at the door. Sometimes our titles, our hierarchy or position in our organizations determine whose voice is the loudest, whose ideas are shared. So we like to create an equitable environment. And in every DE class, we've got board members, C-suite folks, as well as member-facing staff, branch employees who come, as well as back office. So it's not something just for the business development or community development folks, and not just something for credit unions as well. You know this well, Jamie. Viso sending so many awesome people to our program. It's also for organizations that serve credit unions to understand these problems, because when it boils down to it, we're all just here for serving credit union members. So everyone should be a DE.
I agree. All right. What should someone expect when attending the DE program?
I would say, well, we don't give away a lot before you come. So I realize there's people that join our program and have some of the nerves going on, not sure quite what to expect. Um, I would say if you approach it with an open mind, if you are interested and curious in new perspectives, looking at the world through different lenses, and some of the things that being a cooperative system supporting itself can bring, I think um, even the people who have been in the industry for years and years come through the program and learn new things. So it's not about, I know all those things. It's not credit union 101. It's expecting to bring your perspectives, your unique skill sets, and knowing that we're going to mesh those up with everyone else in the class from all different walks of life. And it always turns out well. And that's, I mean, our program is good, but it's always participants bringing their A game that makes a program really excellent.
Yeah. I mean, I remember attending, and yes, I was probably a little nervous because I'm a little bit of a planner and like to know what I'm getting myself into. And so I remember being there that first day, thinking to myself, "What did I get myself into?" But it was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed myself, learned a lot, reinforced a lot of things as well. So, and that's a testament to you guys. So thank you for that. Um, can you share what impact the DE program has had on its past participants?
Yeah, some of that impact. Well, I'm living proof. I went through the program. I was at a different organization at the time, of course, but in 2009, and it changed my job into a career. I realized some of the power and impact credit unions could have, and felt like I was a part of something bigger and that was meaningful. I share my story because I think we hear this more often. Is that um, learning about our purpose is inspiring. It helps us to retain talent in our walls. So I think some of that impact is knowing people who have been through the program 5, 10, 20 years ago, realizing that they had a meaningful experience through the DE program, and whether it's what they learned or who they met, they're still around, and that's helped to keep them fired up. So I think that that's first and foremost. The other thing, again, it's really about just offering a platform to participants to explore the system, explore each other's ideas, and make those connections. Some of the impact is built on the creativity and workmanship of people who leave our program and apply what they've learned. We encourage that in our program, but it's really on the talented people who come through. So all kinds of work, both domestic and international, has been a legacy. Everything from volunteering at your local food bank to running for office, or having true systemic change through organizations and communities to make a difference in people's lives. So it's all over the board. It's beautiful, and again, it's part of that success that's driven by the participants.
Let As far as the credit union, what are the benefits? Why should a credit union have DEs on staff?
Since our inception 150 years ago, and throughout, credit unions have been based on this idea that's routed in purpose and doing the right thing, looking out for people's needs, and to not just have that on a values poster on the wall, but to truly live that as an organization requires, yeah, sure, that leadership piece, but also living and breathing throughout your organization. So purpose as a driver to look at things with curiosity, to consider new ideas, to think about what if. How do I help this person who's in front of me, or this community that we want to serve? That's the value of having people come through DE and back to the organization. There's an energy there. And that's important right now, especially because we think about, as we continue to, the uncertainty of the pandemic, we're still living in it. People are burnt out. People are looking for that meaning and purpose in work in a lot of cases. And we offer that through our program.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, Back in 2019, when I attended DE, it was in person. And as you stated, we're still kind of living a little bit of this COVID world. Due to the pandemic, I know you had to make some adjustments. What is the learning environment and options available to participants today?
Sure. So in its 40 years, the DE program has been in person, and the pandemic encouraged us to explore a virtual environment for that DE program. So taking the learning objectives, what we're really trying to do at DE program, and say how can we bring that out in a virtual. It's connecting people and ideas, and I'm happy to say we've been successful in doing that, and we've learned along the way a lot to make that a good program on its own. So two things. One is what it did was it opened us up to an audience that we didn't know we weren't serving. So people who can't attend in person, whether it be professional or personal issues, they now have a virtual option to become a DE. So that was really important, and that was something that, as program director, I just missed, and I'm embarrassed to say, but we're serving a new audience with this. And the other thing too is that the virtual program has strengthened our ability to go back to in person. And these programs are going to live in harmony now. And it's all earning your CUDE designation, either program you go through. So it's some people prefer the virtual learning. They learn better through that way. Some people can't stand being in a Zoom box. So what we want to do is very much like what credit unions want to do when they're serving members. It's, where do we meet people where they are? How do we help as many people as possible in different ways? What's the end game? It's to get people fired up about credit unions and what we can do.
Great, great. Yeah, Viso Financial, I think, had 3 individuals go through the virtual DE program. And then we just had somebody go through it in person. Was that 2 weeks ago? It was just recently. So
Yeah.
it was nice to give that option as well. Any final thoughts for our listeners about the DE program?
Just that as we move forward, what I just mentioned about the virtual program is who else are we missing? Or how else can we deliver this? We're so lucky, as I mentioned earlier, to have this waiting list and demand for DE. And at the same time, it begs the question of how else can we meet credit union folks where they are? How can we, for example, we've started delivering DE lessons into smaller workshops in organizations across the country, and exploring virtual learning more. So I think our evolution of work isn't done yet, and it also takes us learning from credit unions. So I think as people, whether you can be at DE, we hope so, or not, we want to help. We want to talk about purpose and how that can live in your organization. So I guess out of all that, it's just how can we help?
Okay. All right. Well, DE Day of Service is just around the corner on June 9th. What are you doing that day?
That's a good question. So I will be, let's see, I will be out volunteering, I believe, in the Madison area with some fellow DEs. I know that others are trying to line up some events as well. And what we've been encouraging too is not just for people who have been through the program or DEs to take part in this, but also those who are curious about DE, those who are not yet DEs, people who want to make a difference. So, all that said, there's a lot of people out there who want to volunteer and do some good things in the community. So hopefully we can bring DEs along this year, as well as others in the credit union world to do good.
All right. Chad, thank you so much again for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I also want to thank Viso Financial's Difference Makers video series for sponsoring this episode. The Difference Makers video showcases the community involvement efforts of credit unions, their staff, and DEs. To share your credit union's community impact stories, please email them to differencemakers@vfccu.org so that Viso Financial can showcase them in a future episode. As always, thanks for listening and have a great day.